Hello, hello, and welcome, amazing women. Welcome to a three-step empowerment training to unleash greater confidence, clarity, fulfillment, and authenticity in your daily life. Today, we're diving deep into the first pillar of empowerment, which is self-trust. So let's face it, the world throws a lot at us. It's throwing a lot at everybody, but especially at women. Doubts creep in, anxieties are whispering at us constantly, and sometimes we question our own choices. Maybe you find yourself constantly wondering if you're making the right decision, or maybe you just might be wondering if you're doing the right thing for you, the best thing for you, because there is some confusion sometimes and lack of clarity in what's best for us as well. But I am here to tell you that you are inherently capable and inherently worthy. And unlocking your self-trust is the key to unleashing the powerhouse that I know is you. So I want to share a brief story with you about a time when I had a little intuitive nudge, but I didn't trust myself enough to follow my own gut. So I was 22 and I had an important decision to make, as many recent college grads do. I had two job offers and they were vastly different. They were both in industries that I knew almost nothing about. And they were really far from the track and the plans that I had kind of established for myself. The one job came with a slightly higher salary and lots of kind of shiny promises. I kind of call it the shiny objects job. And the other came from a woman that I had grown to trust, but on paper, the future of the position just looked more uncertain. They were a growing organization. There was a lot of change and just things evolving within that organization, that there weren't a lot of promises. It was very much a leap with trust to take that job. So being young and knowing that this was a potentially big decision for me, I did what every young girl does, and I consulted everybody. I asked everybody for their opinion, friends, family, old coworkers, neighbors. I was consulting everyone to try and help me not really gather information, honestly. It was more of a quest for someone to tell me what to do because it was scary. And I didn't want to make a decision that could derail me for years to come. So as I began to gather opinions and advice from other people, it became clear that that first job, kind of that shiny objects job, higher salary, was winning in other people's minds. But in my mind, I was feeling as well to go with the other option, with the person I knew who I also felt that they had my best interests at heart. They were really kind of looking out for me. It wasn't just kind of a blank job offer. Even though that's what my heart was saying, I didn't go with that job. I went with the shiny objects job, the job that even now, especially now when I think about it, I constrict a lot. I don't feel good about it. There's a lot of anxiety. And at that time, it didn't feel like the right choice. But I made it anyways. And I spent 9 months in a seriously dark depression, raging against my new boss and all the things that he represented, which is a story for another day. And he was in a very dark place working in that job until I was laid off. And the best part about that, one, was the relief that came when I was laid off. It felt like freedom. It was a release from what had turned out to be just kind of a total nightmare. But then 3 days after being laid off, I was hired on with the organization of a woman that I trusted, who had tried to steer me in the right direction 9 months earlier. So I kind of ended up coming full circle. And this experience taught me many, many things, including how powerful the universe is when it wants you to be on a certain path. But most importantly, it taught me to trust myself. Not trusting myself in the situation put me into a very obvious and very dark spot of this is what can happen when I don't trust myself. And so it was a lesson that I learned, I'd say, the really hard way. Because there were moments in those 9 months that challenged me in just so many different ways. that looking back, I'm grateful, honestly, for that experience, so that now I know when my gut is telling me something, I have to do that. It's protecting me, it's leading me to where I'm supposed to be, and not listening to it can have such disastrous consequences. So how to listen to that soft voice inside that just said, trust me, I know what's best here. Even when things look one way on paper, the reality can be so different. It was telling me to choose this woman, choose this organization. And that soft voice at the time showed up as a feeling of strength and certainty. And there was ease within my belly, in my diaphragm. I felt very at peace when I thought of that. It wasn't something that I would have been able to identify at the time as anything other than my gut. And so my journey of self-trust was really bolstered by this lesson because I learned it, as I said, the hard way, the really hard way. And it cost me a lot at the time. But in the end, I gained myself. And so from that time on, I continued to practice trusting myself, finding ways to trust my own knowing, having faith in my gut feelings and decisions, and they continue to lead me right every single time. Now, I'm not perfect. Flexing our self-trust muscles is not always easy. And there are times where there's a little bit of confusion, or maybe I do end up choosing something that doesn't exactly feel right. And so it is a practice of continuing to follow those gut feelings because it's a muscle and it's something that we have to continue to work on and to practice with in order to strengthen it. And so why does self-trust even really matter? Okay. Think of self-trust as kind of your inner GPS. It works side by side with intuition, which is another pillar of empowerment, which we're going to dive into in training 3. But it works with it to guide you towards decisions that align with your values and desires. And then it also helps you to take the action that you need in order to get closer to where you're meant to be. So when you trust yourself, you make choices with confidence. You navigate challenges with strength, and you radiate an unshakable presence. So it's like having your own personal cheerleader by your side, one who truly believes in you and that you can feel viscerally because it's you. So how do we build this trust muscle? Here's a little secret. It's not about achieving perfection. It's about doing less and being more. So self-trust is a quality that is on a spectrum. It's not all or nothing. It's not binary. It's not you have it or you don't. It can fluctuate from one day to the next and from one area of your life to another. So maybe you have a lot of self-trust and intuitive knowing in one area of your life, in business or your career. But maybe you really lack self-trust in relationships or spiritual growth, personal development. Maybe you don't know the next place to go to continue to grow in those areas. So we can always build up our self-trust in a specific area, or we can do it more generally with consistent daily actions. So here are 3 ways to start building that muscle. One is to acknowledge your inner critic. Don't let it rule you. That voice in your head making snarky comments, it's normal. We all have one. But instead of letting it control you, simply acknowledge it. Say to yourself, hey, inner critic, I hear you. Thanks for the input, but I'm choosing to trust myself on this. The first few times you do this, it may feel scary. It may feel weird, and that's okay. Acknowledging the fear, and here's the key part, and then do it anyway. Trust yourself, follow your gut, and take that action despite the fear. Fear can be there, anxiety can be there, but they're going to be in the back seat. They don't get to drive the car. Because that's how you start to really build up evidence that you can trust yourself. You start to have moments, you start to have experiences that reinforce, oh, hey, when I listen to myself, this is what happened. And start building that evidence that you can trust yourself. It also, I think, becomes really fun to play in this realm of trusting yourself and seeing where it leads you. Life gets really fun when we lean into this guidance that we have. Step 2 is prioritizing daily stillness. So trust within ourselves, as I said, is like building trust in any relationship. We have to nurture it through communication and showing up, right? If we have friends, if we have people in our lives, we show up for them. And that's how we start to build trust and know that we can rely on those people and that they can rely on us as well. So even if it's only for a few moments a day, which is perfect, no matter wherever your starting point is, just a couple moments is perfect. Sit with yourself and begin a dialogue by asking, what do I most desire today? What can I do today to bring me one step closer to the life I want, to the person that I want to be? And then, this is key, listen. Just sit in the stillness for a moment and listen to what your body has to say. If you receive guidance, often as kind of a nudge coming from your gut, follow it, act on it. See how you can act on that guidance even in the smallest of ways that day. Don't delay it. Don't put it off. Don't say, oh, I don't know. It just kind of feels weird. Take the action. Even if it's tiny, it's going to bring you one step closer to where you want to be. Step 3 is outside of stillness. Listen to your intuition as well. So have you ever had a gut feeling about something? You just knew, maybe like I did with those jobs, that one thing was right and the other just wasn't. Or maybe maybe you just get like a shiver down your spine at certain times, or a nagging feeling like something isn't right, or think almost like you're forgetting something. That's your body's way of trying to get your attention, to communicate with you, to share some wisdom and knowledge with you. And that's your intuition really whispering wisdom. So we want to listen up. We want to pay attention to it. It might not always be comfortable, but it's almost always right. And I will tell you that after about 10 years now of relying solely on my intuition to guide me, it's never been wrong. Now, there are times where I have not listened to it and I've made other choices, and they didn't work out that well. And that's fine. That's just my journey. But my intuition has always been correct, whether I listen to it or not. So the more you listen, the stronger your trust in your inner voice becomes. And so the stronger your self-trust becomes as well. So if you're ready to take action, grab a pen and get started. This information is also included as a worksheet in the email below the video. So you can download it and spend a little time really getting familiar with some self-trust concepts. So in your journal, you're going to write down a recent situation where you doubted yourself. And I want you to think about, what was the decision and what were the voices in your head saying? Maybe there was an inner critic. Maybe there was your highest self kind of trying to lead you in the right direction. What was your intuition saying? Was it saying something different than those voices? And how did that situation play out? This is just merely more of an awareness question, an awareness exercise for reflection. And now in question 2, I want you to imagine your most confident self in that situation. What would you have done? And imagining maybe how that would have played out if you had, followed that guidance, your most confident self. How would you then feel upon reflecting on that situation? And then the third thing I want you to do, and this is outside your journal, but it would also be very helpful to write it down, is to look for stillness in your daily routine. Where in your life can you spend 3 to 5 minutes, not a long time, communicating with yourself, checking in, cultivating that communication that leads to strong self-trust? Remember, building self-trust is a journey. It's not a destination. It's a constant practice that we are refining. There will be bumps along the way, but with each conscious choice, each gut feeling followed, you're going to strengthen that inner compass. You are capable, worthy, and incredibly powerful. Now go out there and show the world what you're made of. And here's just a little bonus tip. If you want to supercharge your self-trust journey, you can join my community of empowered women. We will hold you accountable, celebrate your wins, and watch your confidence soar. More information about how to join us is included in the email below this video as well. I would also love it if you could share your takeaways and questions with me on Instagram at empowered_by_Emma. I'd love to hear your own experience and thoughts with self-trust and your plans for stillness practice. Because I love to crowdsource different practices to add to my own, just to kind of keep things fresh. Can't wait to see you in tomorrow's training, Live Your Truth, the Power of Personal Integrity.